I haven't heard. I do know that Jen can't be here, and but I haven't heard of anybody else not being here. Oh, there's Steph. Okay.
Hey, how are you guys?
How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for organizing.
I don't think Nancy's joining us, and I haven't heard from Kevin or Bradley, so maybe we'll just go ahead and start. I don't know whether you folks had a chance to see the agenda I put out. I just made a quick agenda this afternoon. And the three topics we're going to talk about is LUM's Pantry right now, and we have Nina with us who's going to do some describing and try to answer some questions for us. And then West Lafayette possibilities. I don't know whether we have any more information than what we know about the UU location. Some comments about the Klondike corridor. Carl's got some information, and I do also. And then I also talked to the city of West Lafayette, and if we have any other ideas, and then kind of decide what our next steps are. So Nina, I'm going to start with you. If you could kind of explain to us what the routine is on Thursdays at the food pantry, and then maybe we'll have some questions as well.
Okay, I will just tell you my name's Nina.
Nina, I'm sorry. I know that, Nina. My apologies. My apologies.
It's kind of interchangeable, but
yeah, I know. No, I need to be called.
So we do operate a little bit different now than when we started, but we operate as a pop-up pantry is what we refer to ourselves as, because we do not have a permanent location. We don't have much storage. We don't keep food over. We don't do canned foods or non-perishable for the most part. We do fresh protein. We will take some canned protein. During this COVID period, we have expanded, and we do accept other foods just to fill their stomachs up. But typically, we are a pop-up pantry. We have produce, protein, and paper products. When we come in on Thursday, we sort out any donations that have arrived, such as paper products, because we carry diapers and formula and baby food, which most pantries do not in town. So we carry that. We separate those out into reasonable amounts, 12 to 15 diapers, such things like that, so that we can make our donation go as far as possible. So we get that all sorted out. When the produce arrives, we will sort that. We go through, and if we get a big bag of potatoes, we will break that down into smaller quantities. What is manageable for a household in a week? Because we operate every week, we expect if they need more, they come back the next week. So we do separate that. Plus, we have to sort out the bad produce. And when you're working with food finders, you just don't know what you're going to get. A lot of our produce today was just really bad. It had gotten so cold that I think it ruined a lot of it. So we had to sort that out, throw that away, and then we rebag into reasonable amounts. We rebag into plastic bags or gallon Ziploc bags, whatever is appropriate for the food. Then the meat will come with the produce if we get it. It has been pretty scarce. There were a few weeks we didn't get any. There were some weeks, like this week, we got 100 and 60 pounds, I believe it was. Well, we started out getting almost 300 pounds. Of course, we were serving 60 people at that time. It comes in frozen, and you never know what you're going to get. We pay 19 cents a pound for any of our meats, and then we do get eggs a lot of times. And we do pay for those, but we don't pay for the produce. So we have a freezer. It's a chest freezer. I don't know how many cubic feet it is. It's not a real small one. I'd say it was a mid-sized chest freezer. And so we can hold our meat over from week to week, but we can't hold any produce over. So we don't do much separating of the meats. We organize it in the freezer so that we have large packages and small packages. Then if we have unusual cuts of meat, because we will get some pretty odd cuts. And then we keep those and separate them a little bit so that as we know our clientele, we can tell who might take some of those items and who won't. Now that they don't get to pick through any of their food, we have to bag up according to our best guess. We separate into small families and large families, and this is just how we've started doing it since COVID. I consider a larger family a family with children, especially older children, or a family of 5 or more. That, again, I just made that up on my own. We do have some families of 6, 8, and 11. But we have a lot of singles and 2 people, or maybe 3 older adults, and they just don't eat as much. So we separate into smaller and larger. We go through and bag up meat according to that, trying to give them some variety if we have much variety. A lot of times all we'll have is bacon, or all we'll have is sausage. Sometimes we just get chicken breasts. You know, we just never know what we're going to get. So, but we bag all of that up, and then we bag up our produce according to small and large families as well. And then as we get down to the end of the serving period, we might have to adjust those bags some. We'll bag up everybody, as long as we have a donation, we give them a roll of toilet paper, because that is something that they don't get with food stamps. Everybody is always anxious for toilet paper. So we try and give them a roll of toilet paper or paper towel, something like that, to go with. And then we'll give them, if we have eggs, we separate that out into 1 dozen for a smaller family, 2 dozen for a larger family. That takes us about, to get everything organized and sorted out, it takes about an hour. And I usually, if I have less than 4 people sorting, we're really hustling. It does take some time. So it takes more time now on the front end rather than on the serving end. So we line it all up in our area so that the people that go out to get the names, and remember, we take names of people and the data, because we put them in the LUM database. Most food pantries don't have that type of system, so they don't have to worry about it. But we do keep track of them, how many's in the household. Then if they have children, young children, toddlers, 0 to 1 or even 2, according to their needs, we provide the diapers and formula, but we keep those in the back. They will let us know. We'll ask them if they need something when we see what age their children are. And we'll go back and give them a package of napkins, or diapers, and a package of baby wipes. And then if they need formula, we'll give them enough to get them through for a week, hopefully. because we ask that they are on the WIC program or have been in contact with WIC. And then WIC only gives so much. And as you know yourself as a parent, some children eat a little bit more than others. And WIC doesn't take that into consideration too well. They just give you a flat amount until they're 6 months old, and then they cut it down, and then they take them to a year old. And so we try and supplement, and that's all we're doing. We're not trying to give them enough to last a month. We just do enough to get them until their next WIC appointment or through the week, thinking that they can come back. So we use our own judgment call on that. So we go out, get the names, come in, make sure they're in the system. If they're not, we enter them. Then we just take a bag of what our best guess is, their needs, according to their needs. If they have teenage children, we really try and adjust those bags so that they get some more meat than maybe 2 older adults or something. So we try to use our judgment call on that. Before, when people came in to pick, we lined everything up. We had fruits, vegetables, and meat all in different areas, and they would come through and we'd say, you can have 2 vegetables, 1 fruit, or whatever, and then however many meats we thought we could get by with. Our numbers have dropped from 60 to about 30, and that has happened. I think some of it is that during COVID, a lot of the older people have not been getting out to go to food pantries, at least ours. And the other thing is, I think there's been so many other smaller food pantries opened up. Then this is my thoughts, that they are going other places. And then Food Finders was distributing a large amount of food, boxed food that they had for them. So some of those things have slowed us back to about 30 people, 35, something like that. So we're open from 10 to 11:30. And that seems to be enough time. No matter how you get through, they know when you're open, and in about an hour and a half, we can get those people through very easily. Currently, we are providing face masks if they don't have them, up until the point where I know that I've given them, 3 or 4 face masks, and then we have gone to the no mask, no service. We did that. This is our 3rd week of that. Got some flack, but my volunteers were, they were masked, and they were taking every precaution they could. And all of us, outside of 2 younger teenagers that have been helping us, are 65 and older. And so we felt that I wanted them to be safe. And so I expected our clients to adhere to face mask policy and social distancing. And I think that I know it disturbed a few people, but it seems to have balanced out, and people are very accepting of it now. So ask me some questions, and I'll try and fill in where I've got some gaps.
You were distributing milk too for a while. Are you still doing that?
No, we did that while Prairie Farms was, they had like 1,000 gallons that they were trying to disperse. And so we would go get that milk, and I didn't have any place to store it. So Lafayette Brewing Company is very closely affiliated with LUM. And so they offered their refrigeration space. So we dropped it off there Wednesday, picked it up Thursday morning. And we were distributing about 50 gallons to start with. So we did that for 4 weeks. The guy from Prairie Farms told me that there's possibility that it'll happen again in August, but they weren't sure yet. So we did do that, and it was welcome. However, when you flood the market with milk, as Prairie Farms did, they were giving it away everywhere. People would come and say, "Oh, we've got plenty of milk. We don't need any more milk." So, and a lot of times they'll do that with eggs. I'm not sure why eggs are so plentiful right now, but they seem to be. And sometimes Food Finders charges us, sometimes they don't. But we will find a lot of times people will say, I've still got eggs, I don't want those, and pass them on. Anything that we have left that I can't get rid of, we have been taking down to transitional housing for the most part. So, and they've been very thankful for the extra food that we've been able to give them.
Anybody else got questions?
I do, please. So Nina, thank you for that presentation. That was really good. I was wondering too, do we have protein substitutes? Do we have things like beans that people could get protein from? And how many eggs do you usually get? Do you have an, when you say?
We've been getting 42 dozen. And that's almost too many for us right now. So today we had 10 dozen left and took them to transitional housing. We do provide peanut butter, and we do beans if they're donated. The only thing that LUM buys outside of the meat is I buy the formula, and very little of the other of diapers or anything. Most of that is donated by church members and such. But we do provide we buy the formula because I'm very skeptical of taking donated formula. I don't know how it was stored. A lot of times people will bring things in that are outdated, and I don't serve outdated food. And so when Joe first started this, he and I talked about how much money it would take, and we've got plenty of money to, honestly, to buy the formula that has been donated to the food pantry. So we buy the least expensive formula. I get soy formula and regular formula. I try and get a gentle, but I get Walmart brand or Meyer brand, generic. It's all made by some big company anyway. But I get that so that we can keep it rotated. It's just safer, I think. And so if people come in and they say, well, I only use Similac. Well, this is what we have.
Yeah.
So, and they usually will. Now, see, if you go to WIC, they'll give them, I believe it's vouchers or some kind of a card, and they have to go buy their formula. And they usually will get one of the name brands.
And speaking of taking care of the infants in this and these families, and you distribute regular diapers, do you just distribute cloth diapers too, and maybe instructions on how? No, okay.
And if somebody donated them, we would go ahead and distribute those. But to be honest, very few of them would know how to take care of them. They would treat it as a disposable diaper.
Interesting. That would be a good educational project, I think.
It would be an education.
I used to make diapers many years ago for Matrix, and all 4 of my kids were raised with cloth diapers. So, I mean, I'm sure maybe Patty, you have, Nina, with your kids. I mean, it was economical.
Yes.
It helped the environment. And it's kind of unfortunate that we're relying too much on these
in the early
diapers.
In the early days, we did have, and I've only had one that was doing that, but she was breastfeeding. And so when she would come, the things that she wanted was nursing pads. So we went out and bought nursing pads to help her out. And she's the only one out of all of them that come that have ever breastfed their babies. And I admired her for that. But I do think it would take education on the part. Now, I will also say, since you mentioned infant products, we have had several older adults or handicapped adults that needed Depends and pads for the bed or chair. And so we had some donated, and I just went out, we just had another 2 gentlemen come in that needed them, and so we had gone out. Wes said, go ahead and take some money and help them provide that, because those are things that I do not believe they can get with food stamps. And we also do feminine hygiene products. And most of those are donated. We have church members that will donate.
Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, I have
Uh-huh.
what are the numbers for mothers drawing on the infant formula? Do you have any numbers for that?
Numbers of of people I distribute infant formula to?
Yes.
I do have. I'd have to pull up my spreadsheet. I provide that to Pablo and Wes every week. It usually, today, as an example, we only had 4 people that needed formula. We've had as many, when we were serving more like 60 people, we were going through, I'd say anywhere from 14 to 16 children. But a lot of those children have grown up and they're off of their formula now. But we've got a new set coming in. We have several newborns and 1-year-olds that are on formula. So today it was a very low number. We had 29 people come through, and only 4 of them had infants.
Thanks.
I wanted to know, let's see, where do you get like the bags that you use? Do you have people just donate bags?
We do.
Grocery bags?
We all save our bags, but now I'll tell you this, and then everybody will go out and try and get them from them. But Menards have the best bags.
Yes, they do.
And my husband has just been very fortunate. He has gone Payless would give us bags, but
you have to double bag them.
Yeah, you don't get much use out of them. But Menards are great bags. And up until this week, he had gone back to try and get more, and they said, "Oh, we're pretty short. We'll give you a handful." So we're pretty stingy on those.
And you can't reuse bags that people give you, right?
Oh yeah, well, if somebody brings their own bag, but we had, I think it was Wintech, had given LUM, probably 100 bags when we first got started, reusable bags. And we would remind them, bring those bags back, because they were putting their own food in them. Mm-hmm. If they would bring a bag, I would be more than happy to have them put that bag on the table. We would fill it and let them pick it back up and go. We take the food out to them. We have them stay back 6 foot away from a table's between us, I should say. Then we will come out, put Joyce's food on the table. Then we go, "Joyce, you can come up and get it," and we would back off, go inside, and then they'll pick it up and go out to try and keep that social distancing. Mm-hmm. But if they would bring their own bags, but they don't bring them back.
But would you use, like if we bring in our Payless bags or my bag, you would use those over if they're clean, right?
Yeah, and we do those. It's just that you can only use them. It takes more bags because you can't get as much food in them because they just tear. Oh, okay. Especially when you put frozen meat in them. Okay. Produce they hold pretty well. We have to double bag if we use them. So I was going to go to the West Side Menards and see if they would give me bags today, but I didn't make it over there. So
that's good to know.
My husband's better at asking.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Deb. I was just going to ask if anybody had any more.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, so if you have people come up Nina, and like for the depends, and you don't carry that regularly, do you like keep track of those requests? And do you say to the individual, you know, Mr. Smith, I'll have them next week? Do you go out and get that, and then the Mr. Smith comes back the next week and gets some, or how do you do that?
I try to. I keep track of it in my mind. I know who. I mean, you start knowing the customers quite well, and
what their needs are.
what their needs are. The soy formula. I went through months that we never used soy formula, and all of a sudden we had 2 different people come up and they needed soy. So I made it a point to go get that and make sure I had it there. And I told them we will try and have that next week, but we don't make any promises because I just don't know what might be donated. It was last week was the week that we had it was a younger gentleman who has epilepsy and some other issues, and he needed Depends, and we just so happened to have some. And that was kind of a fluke because we hadn't been carrying them. And so we let him know that we don't always have those, but he can come back and try if we don't. A lot of times we'll get a call into the LUM office, and it'll say, you know, I'm looking for such and such. And so then the office will let me know what we're looking for. And if I check with Eileen and she lets me have the money, I'll go out and get something for them. But we don't make any promises because we just don't know from one time to the next on those items.
Okay, well, I think that's great information, Nina. And is there anything that you wish you could do differently? That if we were to set up another pantry like this, that you would say, okay, if I had the chance, I would do X, Y, and Z?
I think our operation runs really well. The thing that I wish we had more space, just because I have one closet that we organize all of our baby products in one closet, or 3/4 of a closet, I should say, for our other paper products. So when I get some of, if I would get too much peanut butter or,
Right.
you know, another thing that I would like to distribute more of is bar soap. We will get donations sometimes, and people are asking for soap. Now, I don't know there again if you can get that on food stamps or not, but I don't have much room. So a little more space,
Okay.
even though I still consider it a pop-up pantry, just having some of that there to serve the needs
Right.
of the people would be helpful.
Okay, great. Okay, so moving on to the West Lafayette, I don't think we have any update. There's nobody here involved in that, right? So I think all we know is that they're discussing with their inner circle of administrators at the church, and that the Good Shepherd is interested in being involved in it. And if you have looked at a map where, as we talked before, where UU is, it's on Meridian, just off of Northwestern. So it's pretty close to the university. So I'm going to ask Carl if you could talk a little bit about your interest in and the need of the Klondike corridor. Then I'll follow up with what I learned from the Wabash trustee. So Carl, do you want to, something like you did with the information you sent me?
Yeah, I just reviewed what I knew of the various rental groups out there, the apartments, and the 3 large mobile home parks in that area. And I'm estimating there's close to 800 lower income rentals in the south half of Wabash Township. I put on Google Earth and counted rooftops at the different apartment complexes, specifically the low income ones, and counted mobile homes and came up with 400 plus lower income blue collar rental units. And I put that together with what I knew of people I've met who lived in those various apartment complexes such as Derbyshire or Point East Mobile Home Park, the Maple or Candlelight. And I'm pretty confident that there's a high concentration of people who would use a food pantry out in that region along Klondike Road or the south half of Wabash Township. Probably a higher concentration in along Meridian Street in West Lafayette. So, you know, that was pretty well sums up my thought on that would be a good location for a distribution point that's close to where the clients would actually be in the western half of the Tippecanoe County.
Great.
I will say that I have actually delivered food out that way to a couple of clients who had no transportation, and they had called and were in desperate need. More on the, they were elderly, and I would consider them more on a handicap, and they just didn't have transportation or anybody that could come and get it. We do accept proxies, but they didn't have anybody. So I'm sure that is probably right, that there are people that don't have transportation or more of a handicap situation out that way.
So what I did, thank you, Carl, for that information. And writing on that information, I contacted the Wabash trustee, township trustee, Jennifer Teesing, whose office is actually in the firehouse there on Klondike. And I sort of presented to her some of the findings that Carl had talked about earlier about the need in that area and what he had seen. And so I said to her, so is there any place on Klondike that we could distribute food? And she actually had contacted Food Finders previously and showed an interest of distributing food, and sort of did not meet a welcome response from Food Finders. I think partly because of Food Finders is handing so much food out. I don't know exactly when she did it. She didn't have a date for me. Didn't have a lot of extra food. But I you know, her feeling was that it sort of wasn't on their books to look at that area, at least, and I've had that experience as well. But what Jennifer reported to me is what you said, Carl, about the high concentration of poverty or low income. And I said to her, well, what do they do for the free and reduced lunch? Because they're doing summer lunch. So apparently they don't have a distribution spot. They actually deliver it to the kids. So her question was, so could we piggyback on that to those families? I told her that wasn't quite our model that we were looking at, but you know, I'm reporting it to you because I think there might be some merit in looking at where those families are, because we know where the free and reduced lunches are going. That's an easy one. I asked her about distribution, and she goes, well, you could distribute it from my office. And I told her we need to have a freezer chest. I said, but I think we could produce that. And she said, well, you know, we'll work out fine unless there's a fire and the fire engines have to get out. So obviously that's not a good place for it, because that's totally unpredictable. But she was going to do some sort of research and see what she could find now that she sort of knew someone was kind of looking for a spot, to see if there was a spot. Because they have the parking lot area, which would be an easy place to distribute. That's what, I'll talk a little bit about outside pickup that pantries are still doing. So she is going to get back with me. They do have monies, but they don't have any available right now. The trustee does, the Wabash Township does get money to use at kind of their discretion or for projects. But she really sees the need, the same kind of information that you've gotten, Carl, that she really is aware of that. So I think she is a good resource to get them involved, I think. And I don't have anything against the UU site, but I just think that there is a huge need over there. And as you pointed out, Carl, to bring it to the people rather than if there's a huge concentration. So I think, you know, I would like to still keep the Klondike corridor as a possible site, maybe additional, I don't know. The problem is right now, the only problem is right now, is that construction off of 52 isn't going to be done anytime soon. It's going to be a long haul. So I don't know how long, but maybe 4, 5, 6 months. She didn't think that there was going to be any fast resolution to that. So I don't know how that impacts any of this. But I think that, what do other people think? Chad, what do you think about the Klondike corridor as maybe as opposed to or as well as UU? Do you have any opinion?
I would just, when you talk about outside distribution and a parking lot, I think you need we looked at that because of Thursdays being when the fifth quarter is in session.
Right.
We feel their space.
Right.
So we looked at, well, could we move outside and do it during those times? Inclement weather, it would be very difficult. If it's raining, how do you keep the food cold? How do you keep it clean? How do you get volunteers to work out in the middle of the winter or in snow, or snow or rain? And it is nice that the clients at least can get on our porch area as they're waiting. And if you have an outside, unless it is simply a drive-through and somebody runs out and gives them the food from an indoor location.
Well, both Food Finders was doing outside, and Churchland United do it outside. Yeah. And it runs, they just put through, last week they had 140, and this week they had 86, and it runs extremely smoothly. It's about 8 volunteers, and it's they get the name. This is a drive up. They get the name. They put a Post-it note on the outside of the car indicating the number of families. So sometimes there's more than one family. And then they drive up through the parking lot. They stop, they pop their trunk open, and the food goes in the trunk, or they unlock the back door of the car and it goes in the back seat. And that's the end of it. So
I also know that a lot of ours, they don't have vehicles. So how would you take care of those that
well, we also at that one, there's also a walk-up area. Okay. And it's sort of similar, but with a shorter distance, obviously. Somebody else checks them in, and the food is, because if they're a walk-up, they usually, unless they have a shopping cart, they aren't able to take all the food that's offered. So there's a little bit more of an action about, well, I don't want a quart of milk. and I don't need
I see.
one bag of cans. I'll just take the bag of fruit and the meat and the cheese for today. So it's a doable thing. It's again, is looking for a location.
Yeah.
So right now, well, then I talked to the city of West Lafayette, Julia Zukoff, who's in the development office. And I told her about the UU, possible location at UU. And I think, what was you, Carl, or not? Somebody brought up about worrying about the neighbors in Hills and Dales, where the church is located. And I said to her, do we have to let the city know that we're, no, that's fine. You might want to talk to the neighbors. So that would be UU and Good Shepherd's part of the package. But she was very interested in being involved in a possible food pantry. And I described it as a 1 day a week. I said maybe more than one location. I don't know right now. So she's going to forward the information that I gave her to her boss and get back to me, and I'll email her. So I think there are some other players that might be interested, and whether they can help us secure locations or supply money, though, you know, we had that $7,000 and it kind of got taken off the budgetary line and got put into Good Samaritan, I believe, but we still have that money. So
I believe I would check on that.
well, it was budgeted last year, so
It was, but it was. I think they earmarked that for something else. It wasn't all into Good Samaritan.
oh well, it's supposed to be for the food pantry, so
I think it was taken away. There was some discussion about that, and I can't really remember exactly.
I was not at the last executive meeting, so I don't know. So what do people think? I'd like to get a comment from everyone. What do people think we should do next? Carl, I should say, Chad, we haven't heard from you. What do you think we should do next?
I was still thinking about your last question. You know, it is kind of an unknown. I come from a market research background, right. And sometimes the easiest way to do market research is to just try something, especially if there's no real cost. If it doesn't work, of backing off and shutting it down. You know, if you don't have any brand, you don't have any investment in there, sometimes you just go in and you try it, and that's your test market. And if it works, you start building from there and you start growing from there. So this seems to me kind of maybe more in that nature of a thing, to where you just try and start something out and use it as an opportunity to learn as you implement it. The location you were talking about, I think, is intriguing. That's an intriguing area, because Klondike, you know, you've already mentioned you've got a lot of that construction going on over there, but just you hop across 52 and you get Menards, and you get what's the grocery store there? Myers. You get a lot of those. So there's a lot of traffic and activity and new buildings on that side. Yeah. And you go across the other part of 52, and it's a busy street, but you get across the other side, and then you've got trailer courts, and you've got a lot of lower income housing in there, because it's kind of the outskirts of West Lafayette. So I would assume that there would probably be more of a concentration of those that need it there. Maybe easier to find a location, cost-effective location if you're just not doing it outside.
Yeah.
But I haven't really
Yeah.
looked into it that.
So, okay, what about the UU location? Should we go, do you think we should go ahead? We've got the enthusiastic people to volunteer and run it.
You probably would get more momentum there if you've already got a place where people are willing to do it. And I do think that the community, as you indicated, if it's done in a way that it isn't disruptive to the community, if they don't even kind of notice it, I don't think there would be a problem. But if there is, then it may become problematic because that's kind of an older established area.
Yeah.
Down there closer to campus. So you got all the benefits of being close to campus, but it's still more residential.
Yeah. Carl, what do you think? What should our next steps be?
Yeah, I think we should get our foot in the door at the with the UUs and get them actually hands-on involved so that they don't interest. And number two, we should find somebody who will at least temporarily sponsor a location out in the Klondike Road area. You know, we're gonna have to think outside of the box on that. There's, aside from the fire department and the school, I can't think of any other public buildings out there. I can't think of a church in the area. I'm not even sure there's any empty business buildings out there now. There's a lot of business buildings scattered along Klondike Road, and I can't think of any of them that are unused right now.
Yeah, that's true.
We have to think out of the box and be aggressive, and to find a solution to getting the service to where the clients actually are.
So I think I like the idea of like looking for a sponsorship, and it might be, to find a different partner that would
Third party.
Yeah, take some involvement in it. Okay, Deb, what do you think?
I agree with Carl. I think there's quite a high density of people along 52 in the mobile home parks, and then Klondike, the mobile home parks. Chapelgate Apartments along 52 is also subsidized housing.
Yeah.
There's Richfield, there's Country Villa. Those are closer to town. It would be nice to have a satellite pantry and kind of in that area. You do see a lot of people walking along 52, with groceries too. Obviously, they don't have vehicles, so it would. Yeah, I don't know where we could locate that. The only public building I can think of is the library, and that's more close to subdivision than to the mobile home parks.
Yeah, Jennifer the trustee couldn't think of, off the top of her head. There wasn't anything that was, glaring at her at all. And I don't know whether any of these mobile parks or these housing developments have any clubhouse.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
What we at Country Villa, Federated runs an after-school program, and they actually redid their clubhouse for us and everything. But that was kind of a real, central part. And it might be that we could service something, and obviously they don't use it for the kid food distribution. Klondike schools also have had some food giveaways, and I don't know what else to call, like food pantries. They've also had some activity. They're kind of busy, I'm sure, trying to figure out how to get their ducks in a row for August. So I thought, though, that might be, I would contact I think the parent organization is the body that did that. I'm going to do some digging and find out, but I thought they might have some ideas about what to do. They do it at the school. So, and they're doing some reconfiguration and some building on the school in the near future. So that might be out of availability. But Nina, when you've been hearing this, what are your thoughts?
You need to think about days. What day would be good? Originally, Joe had wanted to, because there's not very many on Saturday. There's very few pantries open on Saturday. He had been investigating that, and I don't know where that went. But I do agree the Klondike area is probably a very needy area. But you need some kind of storage space. You can't haul everything in. That wears your volunteers out,
Right.
to haul food in and out. So I'm trying to think of it from their standpoint as well, because you want to make it because really your volunteers will more than likely be mostly our age.
Right.
You know.
Well, the other thing that we want to be careful of is sort of overlapping volunteer pools.
Yeah.
Church Women United have, I believe, 27 churches, some of which are not members of LUM, most of whom are. And then LUM has the 40 some. So, I mean, and then different churches have their own activities that aren't in either of those groups.
Right.
So I think we don't want to be asking, volunteers. That's another thing we have to look at, is the pool of volunteers. And that's why I think I'm in agreement that, we should go ahead with the UU location.
Yeah.
And then try to figure out how we can serve these people in the Klondike corridor. And that can be whether it's a model like we're using, a 1 day a week. I did talk to Britton at Food Finders to find out if there's a better day than not, because if we're doing a Food Finders delivery, which we hope we would be doing, he said, well, everything's a little bit up in the air right now because some pantries aren't taking all their deliveries. But that's something we can investigate, being able to get a delivery in a time frame that we want. Now the UU,
I don't think they deliver on Saturday either.
Yeah, the UU, you'd have to have it on Friday and then hold it. I think we have to look at what time of the day we want UU, but that is dependent on what their proposal is. And I'm assuming Cheryl will be back, if she's not back already, and we'll be able to get some movement on that. I'm going to contact her after tonight's meeting and find out, because we want to get this going if we're going to do this. That people are, I can tell you, I was there 2 weeks ago at the Church Women United Pantry when we had like 87 families come through. And there were people that knew this is the first time in their life they've ever had to ask for help. And it was a different experience for them. And that's not going to stop. People are getting furloughed or refurloughed or put on leave. So I think I'm going to try to encourage Cheryl to do it sooner than later. So we'll do that, and then we'll continue to try to find some additional sponsors, a space on Klondike, or some model that we can try. And I think, Chad, that would be a great place, as you say. You can try it. You're not going to lose anything by doing some kind of a pantry on a Saturday morning or a Thursday evening or whatever. I think that, and I will touch base with the trustees and also the City of West Lafayette. if anybody else has any input or you discover something, please just share it with the group. You can just use the group email addresses from the top. And so I'll pass on the information that we want to move with UU and then look to do something in the Klondike corridor. Is there anything else anybody has to bring up or wants to discuss with this food insecurity? No?
Once we decide on a location, how do we get the word out to people?
Well, you can put it on 211 because a lot of the clients will do that. I sort of joked with Kathy Smith, who does the other pantry, and when we only had 30 people coming, and she says, well, you know, advertise it at Circle 8 or, you know, like places where people frequent, like gas stations, you know, on a bulletin board or a notice up.
Pablo has an amazing sense of where to put the information out.
Yeah.
And they usually get it out. It took ours a while to catch on.
Right.
So it does take a little while to get the word out, but they really do.
It's a network.
The recipients really pass the word.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think also these mobile parks and housing developments have bulletin boards as well.
Yeah, I think so.
And also, you know, we let WIC know, etc., just to let people. Well, I appreciate your time, and thanks, Nina, for your information. And Carl, thanks for gathering the information on the Klondike corridor. I think that's really valuable, knowing the names and sort of the numbers of houses that are out there that obviously need our help. I will take this information, as I said, share it with Cheryl and take it to the executive council at our next exec meeting. And I will look at the money part, because wherever we do one, we're going to have to get a freezer. So we need money. And a lot of money, but we need part of that money that was earmarked for the food pantry. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I want to thank you guys all for coming, and I appreciate all your energy and being part of this group, and have a great weekend in the rain.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks a lot, you guys. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.